Welcome, Star Wars fans, to episode 7 of Tatooine Sons. This week, we will be looking at the real villain of The Last Jedi, Poe Dameron. We finally know when Season 4 of Star Wars Rebels will resume. We'll talk about what we can expect for the remainder of the final season. And Lucasfilm Story Group shared some secrets from The Last Jedi on a special episode of the Star Wars show. We'll break some of those down. We would be honored if you would join us. It's time for Tatooine Sons.
The Force is strong in my family.
I am your father.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Welcome, Star Wars fans! This is Tatooine Sons, your weekly look into all things Star Wars, from the unique perspective of a father sharing his love for the amazing space fantasy saga with his two sons. I am BB Nate, and I'm joined first by my brother, Samuel the Hutt.
To Star Wars fans, thanks for tuning in, and if you're not a Star Wars fan, then you need help.
Okay.
And of course, you can't have Star Wars without bizarre father figures. So on that note, here's my dad, the Bowtie Jedi guy.
This is the darkest Saturday morning I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And Sam's yawning like it's almost bedtime or something on Thursday night.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, guys?
Because it is.
Maybe it's because it is not Saturday morning.
That's true. So I guess we should probably take just a second to explain. So I work with a little nonprofit out here in California, and we are doing a workshop this Saturday. And I have to be at that workshop because the workshop was my idea. And BB Nate and Samuel the Hutt are volunteering at the workshop.
We were voluntold.
They were voluntold that they were going to be a part of the workshop. And the result of that is, a few days ago, we realized that Saturday morning is not available to go live with our podcast. So it's Thursday night. But you're not listening to this until at least Saturday because we're not going to let it go live till then. So, we're going to see how this goes. So what do you guys think? We want to give it a shot here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that we've cleared that up, if a solo trailer comes out between now and recording and releasing, this is why we're not talking about it, because we haven't seen it yet. So we'll definitely do like a special episode or something to clear that up. So.
Yeah, the rumor, as many of you that are listening to this know, early this week, a rumor came out that on Good Morning America on Thursday or Friday of this week.
It's now being strong reared for tomorrow.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Whenever they strong rumor this, Disney announces in advance that the trailer's coming out the day before, and they haven't announced it. So I'm completely confident that we're not going to have a solo trailer to miss.
Get a solo trailer?
I don't know. We'll have to talk about that on another episode. But let's talk about what we're talking about today. First thing on the docket is, wow, you guys really got into our poll this week. So last week we talked, and we did an amazing theory about the Solo movie and how Quinlan Vos was in disguise with Solo, and that they were running from Boba Fett, hunting them down with the help of Darth Vader, like an Inquisitor.
Yeah.
And so we put out a poll last week. And the poll was, what legendary Star Wars character would you like to see in Solo a Star Wars story? You guys liked our poll a lot. Yeah. We got, as of right now, it's just Thursday evening. So we still have another 24 hours before this poll is actually going to close. And we've had 531 votes from this. Guys, what's the most we've ever had on a poll? Do you guys remember?
I think 360 about.
I have no clue.
No, it was only 200. One poll got 200 votes once. So this is definitely a popular poll.
Yeah.
The winner, big drum roll moment. Who do you think won? Who do you think?
Boba Fett.
Of course, it's Boba Fett.
Yeah, Boba Fett won big time. Like 59% of the vote. Like he got more votes than Obama did. And half of you hate us now, and half of you love us. That we brought up Obama.
Yeah, our view rate's just going to plummet now.
Our listening rate. And some of you absolutely love Obama, so you think that's great. And all you Trump fans out there hate us now. So, but we'll just, this isn't a political show. Anyway, Boba Fett got 59% of the vote. Who got second place? Who do you think?
Vader.
Darth Vader, but he came in less than half of what Boba Fett got. Boba Fett got 59%. Darth Vader only got 23%. What do you think about that? Are you surprised a little bit?
No.
Yeah, no.
Why don't you think that more people would like to see Boba Fett? A Darth Vader.
Well, it makes more sense for there to be Boba Fett because they're rivals. Boba Fett and Han Solo. You throw in Vader, things start to get a little bit weird.
Yeah, that's true. And we've seen Darth Vader in Rogue One, and people are kind of like,
right.
Maybe we need to start with a different... You can't put Darth Vader in every movie.
Right.
We got Darth Vader's mask in The Force Awakens. We didn't really have Darth Vader in The Last Jedi at all, did we? They mentioned him, I think.
Yeah.
A couple times.
Yeah, Snoke especially mentioned him.
Yeah, but that's about it.
Yeah, interesting. Third place, Quinlan Vos with just 10% of the vote.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is because he's not a character that a lot of people in the mainstream Star Wars world, that are just movie fans that would understand. But he's, his Clone Wars experience and Dark Disciple and comic books and stuff like that. And then other got 8%. And the primary, we asked people if you voted other to comment below. And the one that's getting a lot of comments is actually Jabba the Hutt. So what do you guys think about Jabba?
I mean, that makes sense. If you got Boba and Han, you got to kind of have Jabba.
I didn't think that as like an appearance or a main character. I thought of that just when you think of Solo, you think of Jabba.
Yeah.
Really. So that didn't really cross my mind of it.
Like it'd be a legendary Star Wars character that would surprise you to be in the movie.
Yeah. It was just
you kind of almost expect Jabba to be in the movie. And it's easy to do because he's a CG character now, and you can throw him in anything you want as long as he's alive. As long as it's pre-Hutt Slayer moment in Return of the Jedi. Okay, cool. I like what John Hoey from Star Wars Newsnet commented on there. He said that he wasn't kidding. He wants Salacious B. Crumb.
Well, if you have Jabba...
You're going to have...
Salacious Crumb, and I'm dead serious, is what he said. So, anyway. All right. Well, let's get on to the topics, because we've got some fun stuff to talk about today. So, I guess we're going to kick it off to you, Nate.
So, for the first topic, we are going to be talking about Poe's character arc in The Last Jedi. And shout out to SW Intel Network, at SW Intel Network, for being so supportive on Twitter and social media, just kind of really being interacting with us.
Yeah, lots of engagement from SW Intel Network. With it, we had like an interesting. I talked about John Hoey a minute ago, and there was a really kind of an uncomfortable Twitter moment between SW Intel Network, John, and us. But we're going to put that behind us now. You guys know what we're talking about, and maybe we can move on from that. Okay, and if you're not following us on Twitter, which my sons don't really pay any attention to our Twitter account, so they're looking at me like, right, what happened?
Was it the Office Gifts?
No, it wasn't Office Gifts. No, that was another thing that had to do with the Resistance broadcast, so that Star Wars Newsnet as well. That was fun. I was kept waiting for Bill from Star Wars Newsnet to tweet one more Office gift because I had a real special one prepared for you, but he wimped out in our Office gift battle. But anyway, if you don't follow us on Twitter, you need to because it's a heck of a lot of fun. But anyway, let's talk about this idea. An article came out this week.
It's by Nerdist.
Yeah, by Nerdist, where they called Poe Dameron the real villain of The Last Jedi. So we'll start with you, Samuel the Hutt. What did you think about that idea?
Well, when they laid out the evidence, I don't think of him as a villain. He's just not a great guy.
A pacifist.
Well, he's definitely not a pacifist.
Yeah.
Permission to jump in an X-Wing and blow something up. But
he's not a villain, that's for sure. But I think he has the mindset of shoot first, ask questions later.
Yeah, he's like the ultimate, the Han Solo argument. Who did Han shoot first? You never have to wonder whether or not Poe is the one that's going to shoot first.
Yeah,
at least not in this movie.
They were talking about like how he endangered everyone and got the whole bombing fleet destroyed. Mm-hmm. That was obvious. Mm-hmm. But like by doing that, he had to have Haldo sacrifice her life, and basically he kind of just...
They basically lay the death of everybody in The Last Jedi at the feet of Poe Dameron.
Yeah.
in this. So what do you think about that, BB Nate?
First of all, I do not agree with this at all. Even they didn't agree with this after they put it out. They when I was reading the article, they just put out an update that they watched the movie a couple more times and they noticed that Poe Dameron was a hero and
They must have been getting backlash, is what I think, because everybody knew. I kind of read the whole article that sort of it was tongue in cheek. It was clickbait to try to get you on there, which is exactly why we're talking about it here, because it's fun to talk about. But Poe Dameron's obviously a hero.
Well, yeah.
Of the
I mean,
Resistance.
you don't have him doing that. Oh,
And then-
semi-unrelated, but I just kind of wanted to throw it out here.
And before we go there, you guys know that he's Jesus' daddy.
Right.
All right. If you've watched the Nativity Story movie that came out like 10 years ago, Joseph in the Nativity Story is Poe Dameron. And people don't realize that. It's like the first movie I ever saw Oscar Isaac in. And honestly, if you haven't seen this movie, it's a fantastic movie. We watch it the day after Thanksgiving every year. We decorate the house for Christmas and we turn on the Christmas lights. And the last thing we do is we pop some popcorn, we make some hot chocolate, and we watch the Nativity Story. And Joseph in this, Oscar Isaac's performance in the Nativity Story is absolutely phenomenal. It's a great thing. But anyway, I digress.
So this is like pretty unrelated, but seeing as we're talking about bad guys being like good guys thinking they're bad.
Right.
Nathan and I were in the comic store a couple days ago. Nathan was looking for
Shout out to Ryan's Comics in Marietta, California.
Yes.
We were sitting there and I was looking around for something and I hear these guys talking behind me. I got just snippets and stuff, but they're thinking that Finn
is a double agent.
No way.
And that's why
he was trying to kill all the
that's why he's able to use that electro staff weapon. And I'm like, no, that's ridiculous.
Finn?
We just watched.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about Finn?
That's why I
That
said
was
it's
last
unrelated.
week.
But I was also.
I was sitting here envisioning Poe as the double agent. Then you said he had an electro stick.
Well, I'm just saying because we were talking about good guys.
Why are we talking about this?
Well, because we couldn't bring it up last week, too.
Because you didn't know about it last
Right.
week. All right, so let's talk about Poe. All right, so the
All right,
whole
all right.
movie basically starts with Poe holding for General Hugs. You know, that whole thing. So let's start with you, BB Nate. What did you think about sort of that on hold moment with Hux, or General Hugs, as he calls him? What did you think about that whole sequence?
It was a little bit of comedic relief to get the movie going, but it kind of really, I don't think they really needed it, but it was still, when it was there, it was good.
Yeah, and Star Wars has that kind of humor all the time.
Well, I mean, it fits his character, because the first thing that we really see him when he interacts with the...
Who talks first? You
Yeah,
talk first, I talk first. Right.
He's like the Han Solo.
Do we have that sound effect? I don't have that sound effect. I'm so sorry. Anyway, I used to. Who
and
talks first? I took first. You talk first.
I find it funny because it's almost like an issue we face with our current technology in this time period, and they're showing that they even sometimes struggle with it in the Star Wars universe.
Right. A lot of people have complained that it doesn't fit Star Wars because it's a very, it sort of pulls us out of the fantasy Star Wars universe and into our universe with the on-hold thing and all that. But we forget that in the 70s, the Star Wars, in the early 80s, when the original trilogy came out, Star Wars was rooted in the culture of the late 70s and the early 80s. The things that happened in that. I mean, it felt like the 70s and 80s at times. The hairstyles, the way that people were. It was similar to that. I don't think there's anything wrong with us.
I mean, you got to put people on hold in Star Wars.
Exactly. And it was funny.
It
Especially
was
says,
hilarious.
I've got a special message for you from
Leia
General
has an
Leia.
urgent message for him about his mother.
I mean, we got a mom joke from Poe Dameron to start the movie. I thought that was awesome.
Yes.
But anyway.
Skinny guy, kind of pasty.
So the first big moment with him outside of the Hux stuff, he's going there, he's taking out the surface cannons on the Dreadnought, and his ship gets his X-wing gets damaged, and BB-8's trying to fix it so he can take out the last cannon.
Literally, he starts using his head.
Exactly, he does. Yeah, use your head, BB-8. Anyway, he saves. He gets the gun to fire. They take out that cannon, and what does General Leia tell him to do?
Just get out of there, because the fleet is gone.
Yeah, that was before he had finished clearing out all the surface cannons.
Oh, that's true.
He had stalled them just long enough for them to get out of there, and then he started working on it. And that's when he flipped off because he was like disengaged.
She says
now.
that's an order.
Right.
And what does he do?
He just flicks off the
I love
intercom
how
or
Leia
whatever.
says, "Wipe that nervous expression off your face, 3PO."
Right. That's funny.
Just got
Like
the
his
mouth.
3PO's always got a nervous expression on his face. But anyway.
Anyway.
But Poe turns off his radio and defies a direct order from General Leia. And folks, this is a big moment because that's insubordination in a big way.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, he kind of got payback for that because Finn did the same thing towards the end.
Well, we'll come back to that later when we get to there. But, I mean, he takes out the cannon, right? He finally gets BB-8 to fix his gun. He takes out the cannon. And then what does Leia tell him to do at that point? Oh, I guess she's already told him to leave.
Yeah.
So at this point, he decides he's going to keep fighting, and here come the bombers.
Yeah, he says Tally's, bringing the fleet.
Right.
Or whatever.
So they bring in the fleet, right? And these, I don't think there's a craft in the entire galaxy that moves slower than a resistance bomber at this point.
But a resistance bomber can go to hyperspace.
Yeah, it was just weird the way that
It's
it
got
went.
like two speeds, like
Super
turtle
fast
pace.
or turtle. Yeah.
Right.
Right. So anyway, so they go on there, and what happens to the bombers? I mean, we know they ultimately are going to take out the dreadnought. That's the whole Page moment, and that was awesome. That's not what we're talking about.
We're not
But
talking about Page.
what happens to the fleet as a result of Poe's defiance of General Organa's order?
They all get destroyed.
Yeah, there's not a single bomber left
No.
in the resistance.
And many fighters are destroyed. Right, yeah.
So, I mean, he may have...
It was a huge loss.
Yeah, he may have been the hotshot pilot, but in the end, what did it cost the resistance is
Right.
what we learned from that. And I guess in the Poe Dameron comics, this is a theme that's been taking place a lot. He's sort of the hotshot. He's gonna defy orders. He's gonna do whatever it takes. He's not leading. He's trying to be a hero. And this has been going on in the comics, and we see this happen here. Now, we could talk about that little moment with Finn and all that, but that's really not part of Poe's arc yet. I mean, he sees Finn. He's excited to see Finn. But what really we need to talk about is that moment on the bridge when we first see General Organa and Leia and Poe together. What does Leia say to
She
Poe?
slaps him in the face and says, "You're demoted."
And they had to film that scene 27 times.
What?
Yeah, she had to slap him in the face like
27 times.
So was she like intentionally messing up the thing in order to slap him? Is that-
Probably.
That's what I
it
could
sounds
see
like Carrie Fisher doing that. Yeah.
doing that. Yeah.
Anyway.
And then she says he's like, "We took out a dreadnought," and she's like, "Yeah, but at what cost?"
Right.
And he's like, he says, I got the dialogue down. He says,
Well, how many times have you guys seen the movie?
we've seen it
7.
7 now.
They've seen it 7. I've only got to see it 6. They went with their buddy the other night, and I had something else going on, so I couldn't go.
But anyway, he says there were heroes on that mission, and she was like, "Dead heroes, no leaders."
Dead heroes, no leaders. Now, we're going to stop. Now, I haven't done a lot of this on Tatooine Sons yet, but this is a moment that, as a dad, I feel like I need to say this. This is a really important principle in this movie, and we can't glaze past it. There's a difference sometimes between a hero and a leader. You know, heroes are the ones that you think that they're like the hotshot pilot that's going to defy orders because he's going to take things out. He's going to take things into his hands, and he does this. But sometimes you need someone that understands the bigger picture, and that's what a leader was. And that's who Leia was, and that's who she needed Poe to be.
Yeah.
But the reality was Poe was more concerned with being the hero, and that's what she's upset with him about.
Right. She says that later on when she's talking about Holdo. She's like, she was more concerned about protecting the light than seeming like a hero.
Yeah. So that's an important lesson to remember. Sometimes you got to see a bigger picture than just what your mission is at that point.
Yeah,
but anyway,
yeah.
that's a dad moment. We'll move on.
Hey, it's a family podcast. I mean, what do you expect?
That's right. So
It's always good to have a teaching moment.
exactly. So okay. So he gets demoted. They get into this big argument where she says there are times when you can't just jump in an X-wing fighter and blow something up. Mm-hmm. And then here
Problems
comes...
you can't solve by jumping in an X-wing
Right.
and blowing something up. Yeah.
Right. So the Resistance comes out of hyperspace, and who comes right behind it?
First Order.
First Order's in there. They've been tracking it through hyperspace, and the attack starts. Right. And what does Poe ask if he can do? Jump in an X-wing?
Jump to an X-wing and blow something up.
Permission
Right.
to jump into an X-wing and blow something up.
Right, exactly. So he goes in there, and he's on his way, It's the famous scene where he's running down the hallway with BB-8, and he's getting in there to get into his X-wing, and what happens to his X-wing? What a metaphor! It takes his power away.
Yeah.
The one thing he's been relying on as the
anything.
greatest resistance pilot, like Kylo Ren calls him in the first in
the
the Force Awakens. Yeah, he's
the
greatest resistance pilot, and he's like over relying on his ability in an X-wing to solve all of his problems.
Right.
Now they take his X-wing away.
Yeah.
From him, and they're like, "Who are you going to be now?" And he can't do anything with it. Well, here comes Kylo. He takes out the bridge, and we have the famous
Basically,
Leia, Carrie Poppins,
all their fighters, and
right?
everything.
And Carrie Poppins takes place, and they put her. She gets in the ship, and they put her aside. And then we have to resolve what's happened, right? And that's this. I don't even know the general's name, or the not the general, but the leader's name, the lady. Sort of in the background of the entire bridge.
Who's got like I've said to Nathan, who has a nose that could take out the entire First Order itself.
All right,
No offense.
This is huge.
That's nice. Okay.
Anyway,
Come on, Sam.
She's got a schnoz like I do. Is the way that works. So anyway. Anyway, my family's known for big noses, so we'll just keep moving on. She's on there, and she's making this speech. She's talking about how all of the resistance leaders, Akbar, and all of them are dead, except Leia, who is unconscious. And
but we're covering.
We're seeing Poe. They're all kind of sitting there listening, and you're seeing Poe. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, because I don't think we've talked about it. But Poe's in there, and they keep cutting to him, and he's listening. And as this leader is saying, the chain of succession or the succession of command is clear. When I see Poe, it looks like he's sitting up, thinking, "I'm the new leader of the Resistance." Did you guys notice him doing that?
Yeah.
Well, he's gonna be.
No, but in this moment, he thinks that that's what's about ready to happen.
Is Commander higher than Admiral?
No, but I don't think he's thinking about Admiral Holdo. I think his ego is as big as that dreadnought that he took out, and I think that he thinks, "Oh my gosh,
since I'm
Leia's right hand," because he is.
Yeah,
we don't know anything about Holdo at this point, and so if you're watching the movie and you see this, you're thinking that the command is going to pass on to him. At this point, and you feel like he does, and then she announces that Vice Admiral Holdo is now in command, and Poe just sort of sits back again and slinks back, almost like a sense of relief with disappointment at the same time. What do you think about? I mean, did you notice what I'm talking about?
I didn't notice a disappointment. I think it was a little bit of curiosity.
No, I sense disappointment.
Okay, well, the same.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so then they have this big confrontation, right, Nate?
Yes.
BB Nate. Holdo is telling them that they're going to try to avoid being shot down. And that's all she tells everybody. And she starts to walk off. And then there's that really awkward conversation between Holdo and Poe. When Poe introduces himself.
Yeah.
What does he call himself? He calls himself Commander Dameron. Yeah. And she's like, Commander? It's Captain. Isn't that Leia's last...
Wasn't that Leia's last official act to demote you?
Yeah.
For your dreadnought plan.
For your dreadnought plan. Yeah. And she's like, I know these hotshot pilots. And you guys haven't read Leia, Princess of Alderaan yet. But this fits her character in a big way if you've read that book. And those of you listening that have read it, you know what I'm talking about. So then what does Poe do, BB Nate? He gets out of there. He's not got any information. He doesn't know what Holdo's up to. She won't reveal anything to him. She goes in there, and then he goes into whatever his barracks are or whatever. And here comes Finn and Rose with their idea about hyperspace tracking. And what ends up happening as a result?
He sends them off to... Well,
they talk to Maz.
Yeah, they talk to Maz, and then he sends them off.
Have we ever seen Maz and Poe together in anything? Not in the movie.
No, they may have met in a comic book, though.
If you're listening to this podcast and you know of a moment when Poe and Maz interact in some comic or anything like that, why don't you tweet us at Tatooine Sons and let us know, because we'd love to know where that took place. They know each other, but I don't know if we've ever seen that before.
Or maybe he just heard stories from Finn.
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Or maybe because a lot of smugglers know her, and a lot of people know Maz. Maybe he just knows her naturally because
Yeah.
she is a pretty famous person.
She is. Okay. So they hatch the plan for Canto Bight, and what is Poe's role in that plan as
Jump
he
to
stays
hyperspace.
on? Well, yeah, that's what ultimately he's got to get them into hyperspace when the tracking's turned off, when that happens. But what is he doing throughout the entire Canto Bight sequence on the ship? What is he doing back on the Resistance ship?
Kind of learning about Holdo's plan.
Yeah, trying to. That's what I'd say. Trying to gather as much information about what Holdo's trying to do.
He's constantly second guessing, or he actually mutinies at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really insubordinate throughout this entire movie.
Well, he's angry. I would be angry too if
And
we didn't
confused.
know. If our whole entire fleet is on one ship and we're about to die because we're getting shot and running out of fuel.
But a commander, and in this case a captain, is not given liberty to question an admiral's
Vice
orders.
admirals.
Well, she's an admiral at this point.
Yeah.
I think she's been promoted fully to admiral at this point. And he's questioning all of her plans. I mean, that's a big gap in authority, and he doesn't have a right to question those things. You know, there are times in our lives when we don't have, when somebody tells us to do something, we just have to do it because that's their role. Holdo, no, you have BB Nate's nodding his head because he knows the way it is with his parents. But anyway, so he ends up mutinying and barricading himself in the bridge because Holdo's, been stunning his supporters, and somebody's trying to bust into the bridge. Who ends up busting into the bridge, Sam? Leia. And so he's like all relieved. Okay, there's General Organa. She's better now. We're finally... And as the viewer of the movie, you're thinking, oh, finally, Leia's going to side with Poe. We're all going to be good to go now. What happens, BB Nate?
Well, Leia shoots Poe.
She stuns him. She's hiding a gun behind her robes and then just stuns him.
Yeah.
Poof.
And then, so of course, he's knocked out. They get him on a stretcher, and he's loaded onto one of the transports that's going to go down to Crate.
Yeah.
At this point. And still, Poe knows nothing about Crate. He doesn't understand any of that.
Well, no.
At this point. And what does Holdo say about Poe to Leia? I love it.
He's a troublemaker. I like him.
I like him, right? I mean,
Yeah.
at the same time as he's been like, he shot her.
Yeah.
Or tried to. I mean, he
held her at gunpoint.
Held her at gunpoint. And she's like, I like him.
And Leia's like, me too.
Right. I mean, they appreciate his passion
Right.
and his
And Finn-
loyalty to the cause.
Yeah, and Finn said something similar to that. He's like, they're only tracking us from the lead Star Destroyer. So he's like, so we blow that one up. And he's like, I like where your head's at.
Exactly. But that won't work. Yeah. So
Right. Anyway.
So they're on the ship, and they're the transport on its way to Crate. We don't know this yet. We don't know it's on its way to Crate. We just know they're getting off the ship, the main transport, and he jerks awake.
Yeah.
From the stun. And he goes into a full-fledged panic. And there's Leia. And she's sitting over there. And she calls him over. And he sees the planet.
Yeah.
What happens with that, BB Nate? What does she tell him?
It's an old rebel base that has enough power to get to our allies, to let our allies know that we're in trouble. A whole entire First Order fleet is coming to destroy us. Well, they don't know it yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, they know that they need to get there and they need to call a signal out. And they head towards this. And so Poe realizes that Holdo's plan was a lot bigger than what he understood.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really awesome idea to think about because in life, things happen that we don't understand. And sometimes things happen that are...
So why didn't Holdo tell anyone?
Yeah, that's always my question.
And it's a good question. You would think that's one of the arguments about that people that have against the Last Jedi. They say, all of the Poe thing would have been dealt with if Holdo would have just told him. But let's keep it real honest here, guys. Admirals don't have to answer to captains, and for him to demand answers is really...
That is a little out of line.
It is out of line.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be like a lance corporal in the military asking a general, "Why are we going to take this city or this field?" It doesn't make sense. There's no reason to do that. It's not your place.
Yeah.
And what I've heard people suggest is that if this is a male general, that nobody's saying that. The reason that people are saying Holdo should have told Poe was because it's a woman, and there's some maybe there's some truth to that. This negativity towards Holdo not saying it is because there's sort of a bias against women in high-ranking leadership positions. I mean, it's a possibility. It exists.
Oh, yeah.
So we know what happens. Everything goes to hell in a handbasket on Snoke's ship, and they start shooting at the transports and knocking them out. And they eventually get a few of them down there on Crate, and it's time. They've got to stall, right? They've got to stall in order they've got to go, not stall, but they've got to take out the cannon, the battering ram cannon, which we talked about last week in Finn's arc, and Poe's leading the attack on that, and it's not going well.
No, they're
all of the ski speeders are getting taken out. And what does Poe do in that situation, BB Nate? How does he handle that situation when he sees all of these other ships getting taken out?
Well, he says to pull back because they're picking us off too much and it's a suicide run.
I think he learned from his dreadnought
plan that he doesn't want to...
his argument at the beginning is you make a plan and you see it through.
Yeah, you follow it through.
The plan they have in this one is do everything that you can to take out the battering ram cannon. But that's not going to according to the way that they thought it was. And he says, let's call off the attack. It's a suicide mission. Finn, though, is the one that says keep going on. We talked about him last week, right?
Yeah.
It seems like Poe has learned something different. And it really starts to come together in the barracks again. Because we talked about this last week, BB Nate. Luke is out there. He's getting ready to take on Kylo Ren. And what does Finn want to do?
Wants to go help Luke.
Wants to get everybody out there to support Luke and take on Kylo Ren.
Yeah. And then Poe says, no, let's not do that.
Well, it's not really that. What does he really say?
He's like, we're the spark that will light the fire that will burn the first
Well, there's more. He understands what's going on. He's thinking about not just the initial moment that's taking place right there. He starts to see things less from a hero's perspective and more from a leader's big picture perspective.
Yeah.
And what's the big picture that he senses from that?
He's stalling. He's stalling so they can escape.
Right. So we can escape. And that's when he leads it out. So while Poe is a kind of a mess in this, he's not my favorite character in The Last Jedi.
No.
He goes from being hero willing to sacrifice himself and everybody else for the immediate to leader that sees the big picture, which is important because as Luke does that famous line at the end, everything you just said was wrong. The
Rebellion is reborn today, then it
shows Poe.
It shows Poe.
And does that mean that Poe is going to be the new general? Because
who's left? Who's left?
I mean, you got Leia, but they can't really do that because.
But we know what's going to happen with Leia, right? In fact, there's that funny scene, right, where he's like talking about the crystal critters, and well, that's Finn that says it, but you can't have a podcast talking about the Vulptexes without calling them crystal critter, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so the crystal critter, we're the crystal critters, and Poe realizes that they're finding another path out, and he says, "Let's go, follow me," and he starts walking off, and what does everybody else do?
They all look at Leia to see what she says.
And BB Nate, what does Leia say?
Why are you looking at me? Follow him.
That is the moment where the leadership of the rebellion goes from Leia to Poe.
Yeah.
At that point.
Pretty much.
And we know because Leia's not going to be in the next one because Carrie Fisher's untimely death, that's the way it's going to be. So, What did you think about Poe's story overall?
It was very just all over the place.
Sam, what did you think, Samuel?
I thought it was a good example of going from a hothead to actually wisen up a little bit.
There's a lot of really great life lessons that you can take from Poe's story. In this one.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. All right, let's move on to the next topic. I think that's me. Mm-hmm. I should know that because I get Han Solo's blaster as my sound effect. Okay. First thing we want to do is we're going to be talking about Star Wars Rebels Season 4 premiere has been
talked about
released.
it,
We
so
haven't talked about
almost
Rebels on
very
the
much
podcast at all.
No.
We'll be talking a lot more about Rebels over the next few months
yeah.
as we finish up the season and the series with that. But as we, before we get into that, I want to give a shout out to Star Wars Polls at SW Polls 247. They are one of the reasons that we had over 500 votes in our poll because they retweeted us a bunch of times. And that got people to engage in our poll. So thanks for that, guys. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Rebels Season 4. First of all, the date is going to be...
February, right?
February 24th.
Yeah.
All right, so it's been a little while since we've seen
while.
it. It's been a long while since we've seen it. What do you guys think about? Do you remember? I don't really remember where we landed the last with Star Wars Rebels.
Hera got captured by the Empire.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Hera's captured. They're on Lothal.
Oh yeah, they're back on Lothal, and it's like under serious, heavy control from the Empire.
Kanan's been having this weird relationship with wolves.
Or you mean Ezra?
Well, Ezra starts it, but then remember the wolves
Yeah,
keep
'cause
calling
he's a
out to
Doom. Yeah.
and they lead him through the that force
Hyperspace
portal or something
tunnel
or whatever
thing.
it was. Yeah.
Bizarre.
All
Crazy.
right, so it's February 24th is coming, and we've got we've got the titles of the first 2 episodes. And
small descriptions.
and little descriptions. So let's talk about that. February 24th, the first episode of the second half of the season, episode 10, is called Jedi Knight.
Not Knight.
That's right.
Night.
What do you think that means, BB Date?
I think Kanan is gonna die.
Oh man.
Well, what about we didn't?
Well, let's look at the description. Okay, it says the Ghost crew infiltrates the Imperial headquarters on Lothal to save one of their own. So who are they obviously infiltrating to save?
Hera.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Hera's in prison. They're going to go in there.
And she obviously gets out because, we see her in Rogue One.
Well, we hear of her. in
Yeah,
Rogue
well,
One.
she's clearly
and then she's been in
dead.
Forces of Destiny with Han Solo.
And they're
so
releasing a new comic.
That's
Forget
true.
what it is.
She's gonna be with Dr. Afra.
Yeah, she's gonna help.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's
Anyway.
enough.
So BB Nate, you think that Kanan is going to die in this episode?
Because of the second episode title.
Well, we're not talking about the second episode. Jedi Knight, Night, not Knight. Nate or Samuel the Hutt. Gosh, I made that mistake again. Samuel the Hutt. What do you think about the first of the new episodes?
Well, I'm not sure why it's called night, as in like nighttime. It might be just something super simple as like they're infiltrating the base at night
And using Jedi power?
Yeah, I mean, it could be just that simple. It's going to be pretty intense because there's a heavy Imperial presence on Lothal. So if they're infiltrating the Imperial headquarters, which most likely has Thrawn in it, I mean, it makes sense for there to be Thrawn, and Governor Price and all them, it's going to be pretty intense. Like, they're going to probably end up putting quite a fight. And I can see where Nathan's coming from. I mean, we know that Kanan and Hera are like in a relationship.
Well, they
So
did
he would
They
pretty
are?
much he would pretty much do anything to like save her, which may even result in him sacrificing himself to save the
Alright.
Ghost Crew.
What else were you going to say, BB Nate, about that episode?
Well, also, maybe you're right. Maybe just they're infiltrating it at night. But it may be that they're infiltrating at night, and it's the night for the Jedi. The Jedi that we all know, Kanan, to die.
Could be.
And then
Could
we go
be.
to, and then we hit
The next episode, that's going to be a week later, March 3rd. Episode 11 is called Doom, D-U-M-E, because we know that Kanan Jarrus's original name before the Jedi Purge in Order 66 was Caleb Doom. From, what's the name of that book?
You read it.
A New Dawn.
A New Dawn, thank you. I read it. It's a great book, by the way. If you haven't read Star Wars A New Dawn, it's really a pretty good book. But anyway, I understand Hera and Kanan a lot better now for reading that book. But anyway, here's the description. I think maybe that you have concluded correctly, BB Nate, because here's the description. Doom, reeling from a devastating loss, the Ghost crew rallies together to find a new purpose and resolve. What could their new purpose be now? Their purpose through 3.5 seasons
What's to?
has been Lothal.
Yeah, it's to liberate Lothal.
Did they?
And so
that can
Lothal
mean
get
either one of
destroyed?
two things: either they liberated Lothal, which probably didn't happen,
I don't know,
or
it's not
they
happened,
just
because we know it hasn't happened, because the first victory of the new rebellion is Rogue One, because that's the way A New Hope's trailer or crawl, the title crawl in A New Hope calls it, won their first victory.
So basically, they're like, we can't save Lothal, so what do we do now that we're assuming now that they've lost Kanan?
So you think that they lose Kanan and they give up on Lothal and leave?
Yeah, because they just figure out it's hopeless.
What about you, BB Nate?
Maybe they see the bigger picture. Maybe they see that it's not just about one planet. Maybe it's to save everything. Because they have been doing a little...
They've been over-focused on Lothal.
Yeah.
They keep
Yeah.
going back to Lothal.
Well, I
This
mean-
rebellion is forming on Yavin 4 as we speak.
Yeah.
They keep wanting to go to Lothal. Maybe their new purpose and resolve has to do with that rebellion.
Yeah, maybe after the loss, they think maybe the rebellion is useless at this point or something, and they join Saw
Wow.
because they were contacted
They
by
become
Saw.
partisans?
That, or maybe just Ezra departs because we noticed that he kind of connected with Saw and was like, it kind of makes sense what he's trying to do.
Well, here's what I think. I think that Disney and Lucasfilm are very careful about things that they release. And if something is released this far in advance, a month and a half before the release of the next episode, that makes you assume one thing's going to happen, you could pretty much assume that what
It's
you think
also
is
gonna
going
be
to
that way.
not happen.
Yeah.
Here's what I predict. I predict that Jedi Knight, in that sequence, that Ezra sacrifices himself to free Hera.
You mean you think he dies?
I think he dies.
No, because
I
the
think-
whole because the
And there's
entire
no
Rebels
purpose for them
series-
to try to save Lothal anymore. Because the driving force between
Was Ezra.
Was Ezra.
But you can't do that because Rebels is about Ezra. You start off seeing
But
Ezra.
Rebels
It's all
is
Rebels.
ending.
It's all.
And so now you have to deal with what does that mean for the Rebels. And for the rest of the series, they're transitioning to Yavin 4. And I think we see them... We get to see the final episode is their role during the attack on Scarif.
I don't see. I
Well,
don't
if
see
this
that.
does happen, and if Ezra does die, I would love to see him as a Force Ghost.
No,
throughout the
no,
series.
He's not strong enough in the Force to be a Force
No,
Ghost.
definitely not. Mm-mm.
But
Nope. Sorry. There's
Oh.
no way that's happening.
So what do you think? Do you think I'm wrong, or do you think I could be right?
I think you're right, but I don't want you to be right.
Okay.
No offense against you, just I don't want that to happen.
Sam's upset because he still thinks DJ is Ezra.
No, I just think you can't do that. Even if the series is ending, it's about Ezra. You don't kill him
There
off.
is no Ezra when we get to A New Hope. I think in the end, both Kanan and Ezra are going to die before we get to A New Hope.
Well, that
because
would make
there's
more
no
sense.
Jedi when you get there, because the last of the Jedi you will be. Yoda says it to Luke.
Yeah.
There can't be a Jedi. Both of them have to die. But I think Ezra's dying in this one, and they have to figure out what to do next. Which means they join the larger rebellion and stop worrying about Lothal. They have a new purpose.
Or Kanan dies, and Ezra just ditches the Force completely and lives on Canto Bight.
And becomes DJ. Gets thrown in jail. Has a stutter because he's so emotionally scarred from the
well, that would
the
be
death of
emotionally
Kanan and
scarring.
the destruction of Lothal.
Yeah.
So he gets a stutter.
Yeah, that's sad.
It is.
He gets maybe like Kanan gets like beheaded by Darth Vader. That would be emotionally scarring. That gave me a stutter.
That wouldn't be TVG.
Well, yeah, it's going to get pretty dark. In this. I mean,
TVY7.
there have been several episodes that really don't belong on Disney XD. But anyway,
Yeah,
There's
there
several
have been
shows
some
that
pretty
do not belong.
edgy episodes.
Yeah.
let's move to the third topic of the day. Nate, that's going to be you. There was something fun
Sam?
on the Star Wars. Oh, Sam, hi. Hi, Sam. I was actually really thinking of BB Nate, by the way. I wasn't calling somebody by the wrong name. I just had the wrong person altogether. Samuel the Hutt, you'll be taking this on. We had something fun on the Star Wars show yesterday.
Yeah, so the Lucasfilm Story Group and Star Wars show were out. They shared a bunch of little secrets and mainly just Easter eggs. If you don't know what an Easter egg is, it's just like a quick little nod to something else in the series or something like that. All the little Easter eggs in The Last Jedi, and they had like Pablo Hidalgo and. Well, that's really the only one I know from the group.
Yeah, all the guys in Lucasfilm Story, guys and Young Lady as well.
Yeah,
in Lucasfilm
and
Story
quick
Group.
shout out to Reb Alliance. Their Twitter handle is @RebDiaz, DEAZZ, for suggesting this topic for us to discuss.
Yeah.
It's a pretty fun topic.
Absolutely.
They definitely, it was like a 30-minute or almost like, it was a long episode.
Very special version of
Yeah,
the
because the
Star
Star
Wars
Show is usually like, what, 5 to 10 minutes?
Yeah, usually.
The one announcing Ryan Johnson's saga was 2 minutes long.
Right.
Really short, yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm not
Okay, so let's talk about what was your favorite Samuel the Hutt?
Well, I should probably leave this one to Nate if he knows what I'm
All right, Nate, we'll let you go first. All right, BB Nate, what was your favorite little Star Wars The Last Jedi secret revealed by the story group on Star Wars show yesterday?
Well,
Or Wednesday, because this is Saturday. Anyway.
I see.
yes.
Yeah.
When you get to a crate and then you go out into the mines and there's this guy yelling
In the bunk, and you go out in the trenches.
Yeah, in the trenches. The person that's yelling is Brian Herring, and we met him at Star Wars
He's
Celebration.
the puppeteer for BB-8 and a few many of the Porgs.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Nathan's met him.
Yes.
And he was in.
And I had
Last
a
Jedi.
picture.
Maybe that's why he said it's such a good movie, because he was
in it the whole time.
Yeah.
Right?
He's like, you're going to love it.
We're going to give a shout out to Brian Herring on Twitter when this episode goes
Yeah,
out.
we should.
You better retweet it, Brian.
No.
Because you know BB Nate. You signed his backpack, signed his picture. We got a picture with him. It was awesome.
It was
dude.
amazing.
Cool dude.
And he didn't have much of a line.
No, but he was awesome.
Yeah, he
No,
was
I mean,
awesome.
it's just cool.
Like, we took a picture with him, and he's like, are you going to be
So
getting
who
my...
was he again?
So he was so. Do you remember the shot when they're like about to start attacking the First Order and they run out in the salt trench or whatever? Remember that scene?
Yeah.
And they pan right. There's a single rebel just like yelling some sort of order.
Oh, okay.
That's
so
Brian
on
Herring.
crate.
Yeah, on
You
crate,
said
on crate.
Canto Bite. Okay.
I said
No,
crate.
crate.
Okay.
And then the
little
general
trench
walks
there.
out.
Okay, so before the
Yeah.
general walks out and he starts
Yeah,
making the road.
it's like when they're still in the trench and they're
That's
looking
Brian?
off. Yeah, that's Brian Herring.
Oh man, I gotta see it again.
I know.
And what was so cool at Star Wars Celebration is we got the picture. That was first. And then after that, he's like, are you going to be getting my autograph? And we said,
He asked.
yes, we're going to do that. And he's like, I would love to talk more with you guys.
That's cool.
And
He's just
so-
a cool guy.
Yeah, he was just...
And he told us what he thought about The Last Jedi. He'd
And he
seen a
said-
lot
That's
of
why
it.
I'm saying.
And he said
He said it's
he
good.
really, really liked it. And
He said we'd
course.
like it. I mean, of course he did, because he was in it.
BB-8 and Porgs.
And some random rebel dude.
And some random rebel dude. That's pretty awesome.
yeah.
I'm gonna find that. We gotta go to the theater, watch it again. I need to take a picture of it and tweet it out for Brian.
Well, they had a clip of it on the
of him?
of the thing.
Oh,
yeah.
we're gonna get a screenshot of that
Yeah.
for sure. Okay,
Anyway.
Samuel the Hutt, Sam Lama Ding Dong. Sorry,
That's my-
that's his other nickname. All right,
Yeah.
Samuel the Hutt. What was your most interesting thing you remember?
Well,
from it?
I mean, I really like the Brian Herring one,
Yeah.
but I was going to leave that one to Nate. So, I don't know. There was one that I noticed, I think the first time we watched the movie. This one's a more obvious Easter egg, but you see the compass that Luke finds in Battlefront 2. And I think I've discussed this, but that was cool. Also, I noticed something, I don't think I discussed this, but when they do the flashbacks to when, all the flashbacks with Ben or whatever.
okay,
when
so
you see,
the Jedi Temple Academy and all
yeah,
that. Okay.
Yes.
when you see the lightsaber on the desk and you see Ben reaching after it, the compass is there.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
So I think
The compass is a tie back to what?
the Battlefront
To
2.
Battlefront
Yeah.
2. Yeah.
The first campaign.
Also, a mini one that I found funny too. Well, no, I'm not going to discuss it because it's pretty much unrelated. But I was just saying, I just find it funny.
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, when they
I mean,
park
we're
the
already
shuttle,
50 minutes into the podcast. We're already way over on our normal time.
when they parked the shuttle on Canto Bight, for a brief second, when you're looking at the shuttle and they're shooting at it, you can see a bunch of parking tickets and parking violations on the pod.
Really? I didn't remember
they just kept slapping them on there because they were parked on the beach.
That's awesome.
They didn't know what else to
My
do.
favorite thing that I saw, I said it was a big deal when I told you guys to watch this video. I mean, it's not like it was a revelation, but I think it was a really important thing because it set up what I feel like is one of the most emotional moments of The Last Jedi. So between the release of The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, stories came out that when they finished filming The Force Awakens, or were beginning to finish filming it, that originally Rey was going to take BB-8 with her to Ahch-To on the Millennium Falcon with Chewbacca. And Rian Johnson came to J.J. Abrams and asked specifically that she take R2-D2. And the reason he wanted and people knew that there was the rumor was there was a change he had to the last scene with it. Well, it came out in the show that the change was R2 instead of BB-8 on Ahch-To. And the reason was he wanted to connect the moment on the Falcon when Luke is saying R2-D2 can say is going to change his mind, and he projects. And
technically, he said nothing you can change. Yeah, he's talking about leaving the island. Technically, he never left the island.
That's true. But anyway, he broadcasts the message from A New Hope.
I wonder if
hold on, the message that "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope" message from Leia in Episode 4. So what were you going to say, Nate?
I don't know, but I wonder if Mark Hamill didn't know that was going to happen.
Oh, I think
he
told him. But I think it's pretty. It was a really emotional. Every time I see that scene, it sort of really makes you. I mean, I get all those feels of what's going on.
Yeah.
And when he says, cheap move and that kind of thing,
cheap move. That was a cheap move.
That it's like art. The thing I like about that scene is you can see when Luke sees R2-D2. You hear in Luke's voice his real affection and care for R2-D2.
Yeah.
And you also see R2 knows Luke. Yeah. He knows Luke's emotions. And at the moment, he's been saving this message for 40 years almost in his memory banks and holding it in.
Well, no, not that long.
Almost maybe 30 to 35 years.
Well, I mean, because you know that he was with R2 when the temple burned down.
He's been saving this message that whole time, is what I'm saying. He hasn't used this in any way. He's been saving it for this moment, kind of
Trump
moment.
Card.
And just to throw that out when he needed to the most. And he knows that that's what's going to do it. And it works to an extent. While he doesn't leave the island, what does Luke immediately do? He immediately goes down and says he's going to start training Rey.
Right.
And so it's a really awesome scene. Anything else that you remember from it?
And there was
good.
one thing, and they said when Luke touches Leia's hand to drop the dice and Leia kind of notices, and this is what they said.
I noticed that the last couple times.
And that's when he gives her that look saying, "Don't say anything yet."
Right.
But
and she's the only one that can notice that he's not.
But I think
and you think 3PO because the scanners or whatever noticed that something was up. That's why he gives him the wink, saying, "Hey, stay quiet."
Exactly. Like he's the one time C-3PO keeps his mouth shut is when Luke tells him to,
right,
with a wink. That's awesome.
Also, a lot of people have been asking, okay, why does Luke appear so young in the movie, and why is he using the blue lightsaber when he's that?
It was all obvious when we watched it. After you know that he's not really there, it's obvious why.
It's Rian Johnson said he's just appearing as the form that will most aggravate Kylo.
Yeah.
Because Kylo says that blue lightsaber belongs to him, and all that. And when Luke betrays Ben, air quotes, he's about that age and he looks like that. So he's just appearing in that form to basically tick off Kylo. Yeah.
And they were pointing out a little bit of stuff that you can tell that Luke is not actually there.
Things that would have been clues.
Yeah. And
that was an interesting segment.
Really cool to the sound mixers. I hope they get an Oscar because they noticed that every time they showed Kylo Ren's lightsaber, you could hear salt hitting it.
And stuff like that.
When there was Luke, you couldn't hear anything.
Also, you can't hear Luke's footsteps.
Yeah, but you can hear
the crunching.
Kylo's. but it's just amazing for the sound.
Yeah, the sound in the movie was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You know, they noticed this, and I don't know why I didn't notice it, but when they put the trash can on BB-8, he's mimicking mouse droids.
Oh yeah, it was a funny. Yeah,
but
it's a
in
funny
that
scene.
nice little cheery voice.
Before I go see it my
Happy
seventh
Leaps.
time, I think I want to watch that Easter egg show one more time. Because
Yeah, I
think it
agree.
would
So we
fun.
can be keeping an eye out for it.
All right, let's see if we forgot anything today.
Anything else?
Anything you guys wanted to talk about? You didn't want to talk about? You go first, Sam.
We didn't talk about the new DLC.
Come on,
We
Dad.
still haven't talked about the. Well, when you guys got to remind me when I'm making the show notes, not
Okay.
when we're on the show. DLC, it's a big one.
Oh yeah.
But next
I'm a
week, you know, it's
major
going to
fan
get
of
trumped
Last
by the
Jedi.
solo trailer that's going to end up coming out
Right.
before we do our next show. But
It's
anyway.
gonna come out during a playoff game on Sunday.
Is that what you're saying?
All right, so anyway, so we forgot the DLC again.
And I want to talk about Leia's character arc in The Last Jedi. It's very different from the other movies.
All right, I'll make a deal with you guys that unless the world turns upside down Star Wars, that next week we'll talk about Leia's character arc, we'll talk about the DLC, and hopefully we'll be talking about a solo
Solo
trailer. Is that
Wait,
fair?
wait. Can I take back mine? Can we talk about the Porg character arc?
Okay. I mean, we'll talk about Porgs sometime, but not that. There's one thing that we have to talk about, and it's something that I'm really excited. Those of you that are listening to our podcast, we've been having a ton of downloads and lots of listens, and we're pretty excited about it. And then, of course, on Twitter, people are saying that we're one of the top new podcasts that are out there. We're really excited about that. Thank you guys so much for your support. But here's where we're going to come to you. We got something kind of exciting to announce, and we're going to ask for your help. Basically, the way it works is this costs us about $25 a month right now to do this podcast, which doesn't sound like a lot of money, but we don't have a lot of money either. Most of us, we're just trying to find our place in all of this, and that's what we're doing with this as well. And we don't have $25 a month, and my wife and the Tatooine Sons mom has made it very clear that we're going to have to find funding for our podcast. And that's going to happen. We're cool because we've just set up a Patreon page. And so what we're asking is for if you like this podcast and you want to help financially support us so that this podcast can continue, we're looking for 25 people that listen to our podcast and follow us on Twitter to pledge $1 a month. If you guys will pledge just $1 a month, you can find our Patreon page on our podcast page. You can find it on Twitter. I'm going to be tweeting it out there. I'm going to be sharing it. You can search us on Patreon and just search for Tatooine Sons and we'll come right up.
S-O-N-S.
S-O-N-S, Tatooine Sons, like my two sons that are sitting here at the table with me. If you'll search Tatooine Sons or go to our page and find us on Twitter, you can pledge to support the podcast for $1 a month. And when we get to 25 podcast supporters, patrons a month, we'll know that we've reached our goal, which will help fund our hosting site and everything that we're doing with our podcast. And we're very excited, and we're confident we're going to be able to get that before the end of January, which is our goal. So we're asking you to be a part of that. When we get that up and running, we're going to do a special insider show for our patrons. Yep. And you only can access this show if you're one of our patrons on Patreon. So it'll go through that site and we'll send that link to you guys. And what it will be is we will get together for a very short period of time, probably 15 to 20 minutes a week, where we each bring, both Samuel the Hutt, BB Nate, and myself, bring 2 or 3 topics that we want to talk about on the show. And we'll discuss. We'll not discuss the topics. We don't want to, spoil the actual podcast episode, but we'll discuss what we're thinking about having on the show. The chat will be available. You guys can speak in on the chat if you want to do this live, and you can get an insider's peek into how we decide what's going to be on the show. So you guys can be a part of that. We just have to get to our 25 supporters. So look us up on Patreon, Tatooine Sons, S-O-N-S, and we can do that, okay? And then, we've got a poster contest, and we've got our 10 reviews. We've been running a poster contest. We received at Celebration an exclusive Princess Leia, A New Hope, limited edition poster. It's available. A photo of it's on our Twitter page, so you can see it right there. It's pinned to the top of our page. You can see a picture of it. We set up a contest for subscribers and ratings and reviews, and we have got the reviews, and we've got the ratings, and we're pretty close to the subscribers. We're using sort of an unscientific way of judging how many subscribers because there's no way to know for sure. They don't tell you on podcast services, how many subscribers you have, but we know kind of how to judge it, and we're close. So if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't subscribed on iTunes, you haven't subscribed on Google Play, iHeartRadio, or YouTube, Spreaker, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, because when we reach this, if you've rated us and you reviewed us and you're one of these subscribers and you tweet us that you've subscribed to us, you're going to be in your name's in the hat for the drawing for this poster, and hopefully within the next week to two, we will have that ready to go, and we will be announcing that. So that's coming up soon as well. All right, let's talk about the poll for next week. This one's going to be fun. All right. Anyway, here's our poll. Here's our poll for next week. Which rebel do you think will become one with the Force when Rebels returns? And that's just the way that we're going to say they die. It could be any of them.
In a nice way.
In a nice way. Which rebel do you believe will become one with the Force when Rebels returns on February 24th? Kanan, Ezra, Sabine, or Zeb? You get to follow us on Twitter and vote on that. Share that poll as well, and see if we can even beat this week's 531. Let's see if we can do that. All right. Ooh. Anything else we want to talk about tonight? Too late, because we've already been an hour. This is our longest podcast ever, guys.
Seriously?
Yeah.
It didn't feel that long.
We're so sorry that we've entertained you for a full hour. And I hope that it was entertaining. So thanks, guys. May the Force be with you. We'll talk to you next Saturday.
Are you brainless?
I never asked that question till after I've done it.
We're smarter than this.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Yep, yep.